The mass shooting at a school in Parkland, Florida, in which 17 people were killed, continues to make waves. The survivors of the massacre have become notable for launching a crusade for gun reform. Tomorrow, they will lead the March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C., which has sparked solidarity events around the world, including right here in Israel, where our correspondent Maya Margit joined them. Take a look.
A show of support from thousands of miles away.
Do you know what we're going to do to politicians who send thoughts and prayers and do nothing? We are going to vote them out!
Students and concerned U.S. citizens have gathered here in front of the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv to demand stricter gun control laws. This is a show of solidarity ahead of the Washington, D.C. March for Our Lives, a protest which is taking place tomorrow. The global wave of protests comes in reaction to a mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, in which 17 people were murdered. 3 of the survivors, who are on spring break vacation in Israel, attended the rally in Tel Aviv, including 15-year-old Eden Hebron, who witnessed the horrific shooting firsthand.
I was in one of the classes that got shot. 3 of my classmates died in front of me, and we were the first classroom to get shot.
The Tel Aviv rally was organized by Pantsuit Nation Israel, Democrats Abroad, and concerned U.S. citizens living in Israel.
I decided to organize this rally because I think that it's about humanity, and it's something that I couldn't not do. I couldn't not do anything anymore.
I remember when Columbine happened. I remember how shocking and horrible that was, and these mass shootings keep happening. Nothing has changed, and it's unacceptable. So we want to show the people in the U.S. we're thinking of them, we're standing with them, and we support them, and we want change just as much as they do.
The Parkland shooting was one of the world's deadliest school massacres. Since then, students from the school have sparked a nationwide debate about gun laws, warning U.S. Congress to make a change or risk, quote, killing the future of America. They've also organized national school walkouts and protests outside the White House. In response to the outcry, some retailers stopped selling assault-style rifles. But the protests continue to gather steam.
Enough is enough!
Personally, I want to make sure nobody else has to see the things I saw. I mean, the things that I saw and the things I heard are, I don't want that upon anybody. I really don't.
This rally is just one of hundreds taking place across the world and in the U.S. ahead of the march in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to take part in that, demanding stricter U.S. gun legislation, something that might ensure mass shootings like the one in Parkland never happen again. From Tel Aviv, Maya Margit, I-24 News.
We're joined in the studio now by Danny Tylam, a survivor of the mass shooting at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, and Marnie Mandel, an organizer of Tel Aviv's March for Our Lives. And Danny, if I can ask you to briefly describe what was your experience on that terrible day.
So on February 14th, it started off as such a beautiful day, a day of your worries were, am I going to get my balloon for my boyfriend, or is he going to bring me chocolates? That was the biggest worry. And then in my last class that day, my last class was in the building that got shot. But as fate would have it, 20 minutes before it happened, I walked across campus to take an exam. And as I was finishing up my exam, the fire alarm went off. And the class that I was taking my makeup exam was near an evacuation. So I did what I would do in a normal fire alarm, and I walked to the tennis field, the tennis courts. And for being there about 60 seconds, I heard about 4 popping noises, which were gunshots, and it got very chaotic from there. And we ran for our lives to the farthest we could get, which was a nearby Walmart.
Danny, this sounds obviously harrowing, and the outcry after the shooting was very massive across the U.S. and the world. But unfortunately, there have been terrible mass shootings in the past, specifically in the U.S. Gun laws didn't change. Do you believe you can truly make a difference this time around? It's a very powerful lobby.
Yeah, I think this time is different. There will be a change, because I can tell you, me and my classmates are not going to stop until something is done. We were directly affected by this. We know how it feels to lose friends. We know the fear. We know how the families, our parents feel, and it's nothing we want anyone else to have to go through. No one should feel unprotected in a school. Everyone should feel protected if they're learning and doing what we're asked. And as a as a teenager and as children, you are asked to go to school, and we are doing that, and we should be safe in our schools.
Marnie, how did you get involved in this movement?
Honestly, it was a gut instinct. I had heard about this. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida, so I also had an attachment to what happened in the nightclub there about 2 years ago. And it felt like I couldn't not do anything anymore, honestly. And basically, the very first thing I did, I posted a post in the Pantsuit Nation Israel group saying, is there anybody who's interested in doing something? And all of a sudden, people started coming one at a time, and I ended up saying, okay, well, let's make this happen, right? And we started to look at the dates, and we recognized that March was coming out. We wanted to be also observant about what happens here on Shabbat, so we didn't want to conflict with anything. But slowly but surely, we were able to build this really beautiful coalition between the Democrats, between the Pantsuit Nation. Within 30 minutes of me putting up the post about the actual event, Danny's mother contacted me. I had no idea who she was. I just get an email saying my daughter was one of the survivors and we're going to be in Israel and could she potentially speak at your event? Within 30 minutes after that one, I got another email from another mother, Nicole, saying the same thing, that they were going to be here and could her daughter speak. And it snowballed from there, and we were just completely overwhelmed by the amount of people who really wanted to reach out and start helping us.
How well do you feel the message is resonating in Israel so far? Of course, in Israel, we're dealing with a whole other set of threats on almost daily basis.
So I'll be honest, I got a lot of very strange looks when I told people I was doing this. My hairdresser thought I was crazy. I think maybe my mother-in-law was like, well, I don't know exactly why you're doing this here. And the truth is that you take your citizenship with you and your responsibilities with you everywhere in the world, right? And at the basis, this is it's a humanity issue. It is not just about gun control. It's about what we believe about the sanctity of life. And that's why I believe that we have a right to have these rallies everywhere around the world. And that's really why we did it.
Right, and we should point out that despite the popular conceptions people have of Israel from seeing military weapons being carried by young people in the streets, Israel has quite strict personal gun ownership laws, and that has even become part of the discussion, which I saw that was carried on after. And we're going to continue this discussion here in the studio after a brief break, so please stay with us. We will be right back.
Esta semana en News 24, a 42 años del golpe de Estado, desaparecidos, la historia de la familia Tarnopolsky. Rectores de universidades latinoamericanas visitan Israel. Guerra de telenovelas en el Medio Oriente. News 24, el magazine semanal en español de I24 News.
This week on Holy Land Uncovered, we have a special show from the Magdala Center on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. We also look at the approaching Passover and Easter holidays. And we visit the biggest online Judaica store in the world.
Welcome back to the Rundown, and we're continuing our discussion following the March for Our Lives gun control rally in Tel Aviv. With us in studio are Marnie Mandel, she is the organizer of the march, and Danny Tylam, who survived the mass shooting at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, of course, in Parkland, Florida. And Danny, I have to ask you, you and your fellow students, you become national figures. But at the same time, you've been the subject of, I think, horrendous, I would almost say inhuman attacks in some quarters by people who disagree with your position. After having gone through that traumatic experience, where do you find the strength to go on and deal with that other level of pushback?
I think people have seen everyone being so strong But also, you have to realize that it has only been a month, and we still are struggling and trying to get back to our new normal. We have been going to school, and it has been extremely hard. But I think talking about it and showing that we need to make a difference has helped us, because we are doing this for the 17 people who can't speak.
Danny, the pushback is, of course, goes really high up. President Trump was saying maybe we should arm the teachers in order to prevent mass shootings like this from occurring. What do you respond to that?
I do not agree to that. I think, as you could see, our officer that was on campus didn't even go in, and he's trained for that. How do you expect a teacher who's just trying to do their job and teach to use a gun, and they could get in the wrong hands? What if that teacher ends up getting shot? Does that student have to pick it up? Does he have to be in charge of that gun now? There's so many possibilities that could go wrong, and that's just adding more guns. It seems like some people are saying the only solution is more guns. No, that's just, it could be so many accidental tragedies right there.
How did the organizing effort actually start out initially? I mean, did it just develop up, or was it one person's idea?
So there's a group called Never Again with some students, and they started this movement. They started the Tallahassee to go and talked in Tallahassee. They started the March for Our Lives, and then it just kept expanding, and the students kept on coming in and helping, and it's just been a huge movement, and it's amazing.
Marnie, there have been some new amendments to gun control laws in the U.S. since this happened. A lot of talk about mental health checks for some of the gun owners, but the prevalent feeling, I assume, is this is not enough.
It's not enough. I mean, the reality is that the small changes, which, by the way, I'm all for. I mean, it takes small changes to grow into big changes, but it's far from enough. Mental health checks cannot be the answer to weapons of mass destruction. You can't, those two things don't go hand in hand. At the end of the day, there is no reason why a military-grade weapon should fall into the hands of a common citizen who really just wants to feel tough. There's no real reason for it. And you see, there's now articles out there that you're watching people bring in their AR-15 guns and actually asking the police to take them. They're saying, we don't need these anymore. We realize they were fun, but it's not a fun game. And we want change. And I think that really is the core of the message. When people who originally thought that they had these for fun reasons recognize it's not fun anymore. It's serious. It's in life and death.
Danny, briefly, of course, this issue is going to be decided by American citizens. But what does it mean to you to see this kind of rally here in Israel, in Tel Aviv?
I think it's amazing. I think that we are all a community by race, by religion. We all come together. So the whole world is part of this and can be part of this and should take part in it, because this is our brothers, our sisters, our nephews, our aunts, aunts and uncles. This is everyone. We're all connected, and it's life and death.
A beautiful message of hope after a harrowing story. Danny Tylam and Marnie Mandel, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story with us.